he's going to get his wish. I don't think the adult in the room would allow America to sit atop a $33 trillion debt facing $2.2 trillion annual deficits. I don't think the adult in the room would allow $8 trillion of this debt to come into refinancing at a higher level without serious spending cuts. And I don't think the adult in the room would lie to House conservatives. And that is exactly what Kevin McCarthy did.
Okay, this is where we're going to start having a little come to Jesus discussion, because I get really, really tired of like congressional buttheads doing some really dumb stuff, no matter what side of the party they're on. This is why nobody wants to invite me to any parties, because I hate everybody. I hate everybody, DC. Welcome back to the program. Top of the second hour, your lovable curmudgeon, Dana Loesch here with you. And let's break this down. So this is the big O power fight. That's what Matt Gaetz said. He's arguing back and forth with Kevin McCarthy, who said this, audio soundbite 19. Listen.
Democrats joined together to do what is right. If somebody wants to make a motion against me, bring it.
Now, McCarthy he's got his faults. Everybody does. There's nobody perfect. And I have been, and I'm just going to say, before any of these populists who just joined the GOP and they think that history began the day that they were A, either born, or B, had their political awakening when they were smoking pot at a college party, let me enlighten all of them. Like, people like me have been bitching and moaning about the GOP establishment since Kevin McCarthy was part of the quote-unquote Young Guns. Literally, was the title of his book that he did with Paul Ryan. So take a seat, get behind us, because we've been like wailing about this for forever. We were out in the streets about stuff like this for forever. But if you're going to go with someone, A, make it legit, B, have a plan, none of which Gaetz does. Audio sound by 20, this is what McCarthy had to say about him specifically.
Matt voted against the most conservative ability to protect our border, secure our border. He's more interested in securing TV interviews than doing something. He wanted to push us into a shutdown, even threatening his own district with all the military people there who would not be paid, only because he wants to take this motion. So be it. Bring it on. Let's get over with it, and let's start governing.
Now, whatever your opinion of Kevin McCarthy, that's irrelevant right now. Put it to the side. He's right there. What he just said is accurate. Would you like further insight into this? Because the CR, and there were different fights and different versions that people were pushing, the one that was the most conservative push forward, because regardless of what you think, there were going to be Republicans that were going to bring something forward, and people like Chip Roy and Thomas Massie, these people are more conservative than any of the people who are complaining about them or who ever have complained about them. They were trying to get the most conservative elements beefed up. They got the Ukraine funding out. If they were going to have something pass, then let's actually have border funding. Let's actually make sure that our veterans are taken care of. And that's what the bill that Roy supported actually was doing. It was 30 days of funding for military and veterans. It was a 30% cut in discretionary spending. And it was making a priority about closing the border. And that's what Gaetz scuttled. And then what you end up getting in exchange was literally nothing. All you got was an extension on funding at the current levels, including Ukraine funding. You tell me how that was a more conservative trade. I get it. This is what I'm talking about. You get these thirsty ass people that get into Congress and they want the book deals, or golly, I mean, they'd take over for Trump and shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue if they thought it could get them a damn contributorship on a cable news network. Damn, people are so thirsty and so desperate and have such low standards for themselves. It makes me sick. This is why I hate politics in DC. You get these people out there, they're willing to do whatever it takes in order to get their name out there or to get a media attention for themselves. I mean, this is, Gaetz was fundraising off this stuff. He was using the division to fundraise. They don't have a plan. He doesn't have nobody wants this job. You literally got all of the Republicans in the House to agree to cut government. Granted, I agree with everything that's being said. Sure, you can cut more. But do you want to cut government spending? Or do you want perfection to be the enemy of good and not get anything? This is what political strategy is. And some of these people are like, well, I'm a populist. I don't know nothing about no political strategy. That's what it's like dealing with. I just like, you've got to have some strategy. And no, you don't have to go to Yale or Harvard to understand this. Hell, I sure didn't. But I want to win, so I understand it. You want to win, so you get it too. You don't want like perfection. You don't want to ruin something because you want perfection. You've got to incrementally cut it back. And you literally had the entirety of the House that was on board with it. You were, for the next 30, you were funding military, you're funding veterans, you didn't have Ukraine spending, you were prioritizing the border, and Matt Gaetz literally decided to create a stunt because he wanted to fight with McCarthy more. So now government is going to continue expanding, and everything is at its current levels. That's what Matt Gaetz got you. I don't care if you love him. I don't give a rat's ass if you like him or not. That is the reality of what happened. That is what he did. I get mad when anybody makes me spend more of my hard-earned money, my hard-earned tax dollars on government to pay for someone else's ego trip. And that's exactly what happened. We have Biden inflation. Your wages are not keeping up with the cost of everything else. If you think that things are tough now, just you wait until it gets cold. And we're supposed to have a super cold winter this year. Your gas price, oh, wait till you hear about those regulations coming up, golly, people are going to get pummeled. And instead of cutting spending, instead of prioritizing our border, you're going to continue paying more and extending funding at current levels because one congressman decided to have an ego trip with the Speaker of the House. And they make Gaetz is out there saying I want to go and we're going to challenge McCarthy. You never had the votes to do it. Nobody wants the job. It's a thankless job. You have to hate yourself to want that job, honestly. So I get aggravated at this stuff. Forgive the Portuguese, but I'm mad over it. I mean, golly, who isn't? We're getting hit with taxes. We got 88,000 new IRS agents out there. People are getting audited right and left. You've got big government. We're spending tons of money on Ukraine. That's going to keep happening thanks to, this little ego trip that we had in the House over Speaker. I mean, good heavens. Matt Gaetz is like the Eric Swalwell of the GOP. So I wish that they did I wish they had like a backup plan, a realistic, practical, workable backup plan that can get as much support as this one does or had. I mean, this is crazy. This is performance art on the back of the taxpayer. And it was a Republican that did it. Now, I hope if you don't live on social media, I have to for my job, you might notice that the Trump digital surrogates are now going after Matt Gaetz. Pretty hardcore. Trump likes McCarthy. I don't care if you are not a Trump person or not. That's going to be an area. His opposition to what Gaetz did is going to be an area of agreement with you. That's where the general thinking is on the right. There's a lot of digital surrogates just blasting him, on Trump surrogates that are blasting him. And there's a reason why. I mean, Trump backed McCarthy. And also, this was a great CR, the beginning of a beginning step. Look, if I got my way, half these departments wouldn't exist, and we wouldn't be having this discussion because we'd have a budget and we'd be cutting everything. But I don't get to make the rules. I can vote and help make the rules, but I don't get to make the rules in this particular situation. In this scenario, I was looking at what can we get to reduce spending as much as possible, not fund Ukraine, prioritize the border, make sure vets are covered, something. What can we get? We had it and lost it because somebody wanted an ego trip power play. I mean, you had the House Freedom Caucus, and everyone's like, well, it's just 8%. Only in D.C. would someone say that, because you know how many, you know how much money that is? Oh my gosh. Everything across the board except for Veterans Affairs and Defense. Now, you could say, well, that's not going to get anyone in the Senate. Okay, then it's on the Democrats. What do you fail to see about that strategy? Then it's on Democrats. This was the entirety of the House GOP that had come together and unified on this. So I want government to shrink. And I'm not going to get government to shrink if actual good faith negotiations that were, by the way, spearheaded by the House Freedom Caucus. The House Freedom Caucus, which is the Tea Party caucus. That's the small government grassroots caucus. The people who've done the most caucus. If they're going to get stymied by self-promoters who just want to prop themselves up. And that's the truth of it. I think that some people don't know. I don't know. Does Gaetz know the difference between conservatism and populism?